So I 3D printed some of these kind of angle finder. This is just 2-inch OD, but just to get the idea of what we need here. So we're gonna need a right angle elbow to come off the charge pipe through the intercooler here. So these are kind of cool. You can twist them and do all kinds of designs, pie cuts, that kind of thing. But very useful tool. Just kind of keep these around. And so we get a 90 there, and then we'll go over to the other side and check the angle for the throttle body. Okay, so this is a Gen 1 Mazda Miata brake booster with a like mid-90s Impreza Legacy, EJ chassis, master cylinder. I had to find the right master cylinder that had the 2 outlets, if you will, on the bottom. And this one actually has side and bottom outlets, and so we'll plug off one side. But that'll follow the BRAT braking system if we mount it from the bottom. So what I've kind of done here is let me come over here. So what we've done, well, I want to show you guys something pretty cool. I went to take this guy off of the BRAT factory booster so that I could attach the pedal here. And I noticed that this little bracket here, which goes on the BRAT, looks exactly like the plate I was gonna make. So this would go right there, which would give us the proper spacing. I mean, those holes maybe just drill out a little bit, and that middle hole drill out, and then this bracket would help the booster mount to the firewall. And this is a lot more robust than what I was gonna do, so we're gonna go with that. So I originally was going to make a little adapter plate like this, which I just 3D printed, drew this up in Fusion and 3D printed it. The wider bolt pattern, if you will, was the original factory mounting holes for the BRAT brake booster, and then the middle one was the Miata bolt pattern. But as you can see, I was able to use the factory plate back here, which I just showed you, and I really just drilled out those holes one step bigger for the mounting, the 4 mounting bolts, or studs I should say. And I also just used my carbide bit to make the opening bigger, and it all bolts right in the factory location. So I feel a little dumb drilling those holes in the firewall. We can probably fix those later, but that is all in there in the correct manner. Now that we have the brake master cylinder and booster mounted, we've got the drive-by-wire pedal mounted, we'll go ahead and install the brake pedal, and then we can work on mounting up the clutch cable, which they actually made two. It's kind of interesting. They made 2 different sizes for this BRAT. This one's about 24 inches, and that one, it doesn't really look like it, but it's 36 inches. And so I'm hoping that the longer clutch cable will help us get around to the pull style clutch that is on the WRX. So let's get to work on that. So I'm gonna kind of walk you guys through my thought process here. So we've got the WRX transmission. This is the factory shifter. The factory shifter in WRX is the most impressive. You know, EJ Platforms has a rubber bushing back here that connects, and that kind of keeps all the slop and everything centered. So I made this little plate up here. We put some rib nuts to mount that, so that's where we want it. And then I cut the factory BRAT seat mount. So this originally went over the whole car. This originally went over all the way. Your seats mount here and in the back and in the front, and then this kind of provides some stability across there. So this is in, it's okay shape. Needs to be cleaned up a little bit. What I'm thinking after I've cut this through here is I can incorporate this all into one. So I can go back and spot weld. We'll have the factory seat mounts. And so if we can box this in here, use all the factory spot welds and everything, then that'll make that nice and strong, and we'll have all the location points for our seats. So I'm gonna get these 2 pieces cleaned up, hammering all them out, and then we'll come back here and see how everything fits up. Okay, I got the passenger side in, just kind of a mock-up. Probably best to go ahead and put in the seat so we can see how it all fits and make sure everything lines up. I couldn't resist. Awesome. So I went ahead and made up this section here to fit right in there for the transmission tunnel cover, which will tie into this mount. We'll lay the seat mounts over. We'll combine all that together. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack this transmission tunnel cover in, and we'll go from there. All right guys, so I've got the crossmember and lateral links all welded in. So what we've done is we have the adjustable lateral links here on each side. The original lateral links went back to the crossmember and we're just held on with like a little O-ring type bushing, and basically just went through. It was a threaded rod that went through and bolted and just prevented the wheels from going front to back. And so we've kind of beefed that up a little bit with the bushings in there, and then I'll have some overlay video of us making the parts that actually attach the control arm. Those are threaded. We have left hand and right hand threads on each one, and so I'm really happy with the way this came out. It really has beefed up the front end of this car, which with the added weight and the horsepower is going to help out a lot. What's left is a sway bar, and actually I'm going to hold it up here in a minute for you guys. We're going to mount it the same way that Subaru did. So hopefully you guys can see this. The factory sway bar mounted just like this, where it actually attached to those lateral links that we just made. And so I just need to make a mount off the back here that will actually hold the sway bar to the cross member, and then we'll fabricate up some new ones of these. These would have had a little bushing that went over this and actually wrapped around, and that kind of held everything. So that's just going to add to the overall handling of the car, and we'll mount up just basically the way the factory one did. All right, so this is the radiator support mount. The factory one is held in with 3 10mm bolts and then one on the bottom. We're gonna take this out and actually trim along this edge. The condenser and radiator, because of the size of the engine and everything, we've got to push everything forward. And so if we trim off just a little bit, it'll keep the support that we need, but also give us the clearance that we need. So we're gonna do that real quick. So just to remind you guys, this AC condenser is one I actually was just able to find. I'll try to find the part number that would fit within this area and had the appropriate fittings for the vintage air system. The radiator is actually a Volkswagen Scirocco radiator from the 80s that I found online with, that was made out of aluminum. And so this seems to work and fit within this profile. So it shouldn't be any cutting other than this bracket, which like I said is a little too thick in some areas, but it does look like we'll be able to retain this bracket within here by just trimming or possibly remaking it. Not sure. I might just go ahead and trim it because the profile is already there for us, and that'll give us the support that we need. right, guys. Whoop, little dirty lens there. All right, well, that kind of wraps up this episode. It's a bunch of random stuff, but a lot of things that we had to get done. And I wanted to take the fenders off because I just felt like there was a ton of dirt and grime and all that underneath these fenders. And so took the panels off. That way we can roll this guy out in the driveway, power wash it, clean it and everything before we start to paint the engine bay and everything. And honestly, since we've got the fenders off and all that, and we're gonna clean it up, we might as well paint inside. And basically the whole front clip of the car might as well get painted. So we'll go ahead and do that. Still want to keep the resto mod kind of vibe, so I'm not going full, show paint job or anything, but at least I'll know that everything's been gone through again and at least has a new coat of paint on it. So appreciate you guys hanging out with me in the shop. Hope you take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.